Welcome to the debate. Today we're plunging into the most profound and challenging question facing human understanding. What happens to consciousness when the body fails? Our source material provides a fascinating clash, juxtaposing the ancient, rigorously structured metaphysical account of the afterlife detailed in texts like the Tibetan Book of the Dead with, well, the growing modern documentation of near-death experiences.
And this is exactly where ancient spiritual knowledge meets the hard wall of modern empirical science. The central disagreement is it's absolute. We have this vast archive of consistent, compelling testimony about experiences of life after life, yet the scientific mechanism for non-physical survival remains entirely unknown, unverified.
Precisely. So the core question is this: is the remarkably consistent experience of consciousness, leaving the body, observing one's physical form, undergoing a life review, entering what's called a luminous realm, is that proof of a genuine non-physical intelligence, a soul operating under verifiable spiritual laws? I will be arguing that the sheer weight and coherence of these global experiences demand we acknowledge consciousness as a separate entity that survives death.
And I maintain the necessity of scientific materialism. While these subjective accounts are undeniably moving and, yes, consistent across cultures, the burden of proof rests on demonstrating a repeatable, verifiable mechanism. Until we can objectively measure or observe this so-called spirit body, we have to view these experiences as complex, yet definable, physiological and psychological artifacts generated by the human brain under extreme stress.
Okay. Well, my position is founded on the consistent report within the material that consciousness, what's referred to as the spirit or non-physical intelligence, is entirely distinct from the physical body. It survives its dissolution. The spiritual tradition characterizes death simply as the spirit taking off an old coat. And this isn't just a poetic description, it's a literal statement about the functional independence of the spirit body. Look at Betty 80's account. She describes detailed, vivid perception outside her physical body, perceiving her surroundings and realizing she had this radically new spatial understanding, perceiving 3 dimensions simultaneously. That implies the Bardo, or the transitional state, is a sophisticated metaphysical reality, governed by predictable, though non-physical, laws, what the texts call natural laws. The physics of this realm are firm even if they're unfamiliar to us.
That is a very powerful framework. But I come at it from a different way. The sensations reported, the feeling of being light and serene, the overwhelming peace, this instantaneous surge of knowledge are, well, they're highly reproducible in laboratory settings that mimic the dying process. Western science attributes such phenomena directly to complex physiological events, especially cerebral hypoxia, where blood flow and oxygen to the brain drop dramatically. This triggers massive releases of neurotransmitters like endorphins, which can cause both euphoria and detailed, vivid, organized hallucinations. Dr. Destrive's initial skepticism, cited in the material, is really the bedrock of this view, that intelligence is fundamentally a product of nerve cells. The mind is an emergent property of biology. So these experiences, however consistent, happen precisely when the brain is suffering massive trauma, like in Steve Buckley's case after the mine exploded. We have to insist that all experience originates from the dying brain.
But if we accept that strict materialist argument that all of this is just a product of a malfunctioning, oxygen-deprived brain, we run into a problem, an insurmountable problem when confronted with objective perception. This is the point that, for me, demolishes the hallucination theory. I'm talking about the documented cases where individuals reported verifiable, accurate information that was physically inaccessible to their bodies. Take the detailed case of Harry Houghton, clinically deceased, yet she recounted specifics about 2 nurses watching a basketball game, naming the teams, the Lakers and the Celtics, and confirming the Lakers won. More critically, she accurately located a doctor's lost red car keys, which were on top of a tall medicine cabinet, completely out of sight. This was later verified. How can random neurological firings from a dying brain account for acquiring precise, objective information that the physical senses could not possibly have gathered? I'm just not convinced by dismissing these verified details as, isolated anecdotes.
That's a remarkable piece of documentation, I'll grant you, but I think it misses the crucial point regarding mechanism. While the Houghton case provides a compelling correlation, the observation matched the fact. It remains an isolated correlation. It lacks scientific control. The materialist perspective demands an explanation of how this alleged non-physical consciousness got that information. Was there a spiritual sensory organ, a non-physical medium? We lack any measurable vibrational frequency or energy transfer that could transmit that data. The scientific method just can't accept anomalies like this as proof against the established neurological model without a reproducible mechanism. I mean, if consciousness can perceive reality independently, where's the boundary? Why are these verifications so rare? And look, a materialist can always introduce other possibilities, residual hearing maybe, or even subsequent suggestive influence. The integrity of that single piece of data, while compelling, isn't robust enough to overturn centuries of physiological evidence.
The mechanism is detailed within the source text, though you're framing it in material terms where it operates under spiritual ones. If we pivot from just objective physical perception to the nature of the Bardo itself, we see a sophisticated internal coherence that explains how reality functions without material constraints. We have to delve into the nature of the spiritual dimension, where physical space is no longer an obstacle, and the very fabric of reality it's instantaneously shaped by the power of thought.
And this is where the theory loses me scientifically.
Wait, just let me elaborate on the internal consistency. The material gives examples of instantaneous creation. The deceased Leibowitz recreating his former home simply by dwelling on the memory, or individuals manifesting landscapes based on desire. The key is that this realm isn't chaotic. It is subjected to objective, immutable universal laws, specifically the law of causality, or karma. Karma acts as the governing physics. It ensures that while your immediate thought can create a temporary castle, the long-term structure and quality of your experience is constrained entirely by the moral and ethical energy you accumulated during your life.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. That conceptual consistency. It seems to propose a fundamental contradiction. If thoughts can instantly manifest and alter objective forms, then the reality is inherently subjective. It's transient. How can a realm where mental intention creates and destroys structures still be subject to a shared, external, objective set of immutable laws? The laws of physics, as we know them, provide resistance. If there's no resistance, then what you're describing is a highly vivid, shared dream state, not an externally verifiable location. To claim that causality governs the foundation while thought governs the form sounds like an elegant theological solution to a scientific inconsistency.
It's a framework of spiritual physics. The law of causality dictates the potential, the trajectory. It sets the density of the reality you enter. Your thoughts, driven by your attachments, they fill in the details. The consistency is found in the fact that the soul's primary baggage is love and understanding, which determines the soul's vibrational frequency and its ascent. This is why the material emphasizes that everything that matters in the Bardo is internal. If you're focused on material attachment, you instantly create a dark, restrictive environment. If you're focused on compassion, you gravitate toward the luminous realm. The consistency is in the moral consequence. That is the ultimate objective law of that universe.
That's a compelling ethical argument, but ethically driven models do not equal objectively measurable realities. A scientist examining this would conclude that the brain, facing extinction, triggers a powerful, evolutionarily beneficial mechanism designed to synthesize comfort and order, a life review, an overwhelming feeling of love. It's a chemical comfort mechanism, not evidence of a transition to a karmically constrained universe. We still lack the tools to measure the density of that spiritual thought or the mechanism of karma.
And this divergence between thought-created reality and the limits of material science is the heart of the matter. So we invite listeners to really consider this split. Does the systematic organization of the Bardo model
however metaphysical, offer a more complete explanation for the patterns we see in NDEs, or is it all just fragmented, inconsistent data from a dying brain? Let us know which perspective you find most persuasive in the comments below.
Yeah, and let us know if you think the consistency of these reports points toward a shared objective spiritual physics or just a shared neurological vulnerability.
Moving to our final point, the source material offers a really strong critique of modern medical intervention at the end of life. This brings the theoretical clash into stark, practical relief. The texts explicitly warn against the aggressive use of machines, shocks, and powerful drugs to prolong biological life, calling it violence on the body. They argue that this disrupts the essential spiritual goal, achieving a peaceful, non-attached state, serenity, which is necessary for the soul's smooth transition into the Bardo. Sincere, quiet prayer is seen as the most powerful aid, creating positive spiritual vibrations.
I recognize the immense ethical weight of peaceful dying, which is acknowledged in the West, particularly by figures like Kubler-Ross. But modern medical training is fundamentally based on a measurable mandate. Clinical duty is to preserve life functions, heart rhythm, blood pressure, oxygen saturation, using all means available. When electricity or drugs are used, the duty is to achieve physical recovery. Aggressive intervention is a consequence of training designed to maximize quantifiable physical existence. This is the core disagreement. The spiritual guidance, advising the dying to avoid attachment, to focus on positive memories, that's focused purely on mental comfort.
But that clinical duty causes demonstrable harm, at least from the spiritual perspective. When the spirit is attempting to detach, a violent shock, like from a defibrillator, brutally drags the consciousness back. It forces it back into that old coat. It's described as a catastrophic disruption, forcing the soul to struggle against the natural movement toward resolution. The true failure, according to these texts, is the modern insistence on measurable quantity of life over the necessary quality of conscious transition.
We acknowledge the profound value of spiritual comfort. We do. However, the medical community has to act on the assumption that consciousness requires the body. When a patient is crashing, the priority is not spiritual readiness, it is the immediate measurable repair of the organ system that generates consciousness. The two traditions just have fundamentally different definitions of success. For the physician, success is a returning heartbeat. For the spiritual guide, success is a peaceful, conscious release. The physician's tools are focused on physical repair, and the spiritual guide's tools are focused on mental focus. It just illustrates the chasm between the two.
And that brings us back to the power of the narrative. Do these profound, consistent stories, like Joe being instantly cured of the drowning sensation simply by accepting his new spiritual body, or the systematic details of a luminous realm filled with transcendent knowledge, do they reflect an independent, spiritually organized reality?
Or are they purely the brain's final, complex attempt to synthesize meaning and order as its function ceases, creating a rationalization for its own demise? What's clear, though, regardless of which framework you adopt, is that both traditions place immense emphasis on the power of the mind and focused consciousness. Whether that power is used for creating the next life state or for managing physical health and pain in this one.
Exactly. The spiritual framework offered by the Tibetan Book of the Dead provides invaluable, practical guidance for living mindfully, focusing on non-material values like love, compassion, and understanding. It prepares you for a non-painful transition regardless of the physiological details, and that is the deep, enduring value of the original material. It offers a blueprint for how to live based on how we are instructed to die.
We encourage all of you to continue studying this material, comparing the empirical data of NDEs with these ancient philosophical structures to inform your own conclusion about the true nature of consciousness. This discussion has really only scratched the surface.
We hope this exploration has deepened your understanding of these critical perspectives. If you found value in this deep dive, please subscribe and leave your thoughts below on whether the spirit truly departs the body or if this experience is simply the brain's final beautiful act. We look forward to continuing this debate with you.